In today's video, I'll be painting Jazz from the Infinity Defiance board game. Jasmine Corvus was born upon Corregidor, one of the three great nomad ships. Growing up around music, she learnt to play the saxophone, which is how she acquired the name Jazz. She was a natural talent, but her interests in musical style did not reflect what was popular within Corregidor society, and living in one of the most violent communities on the ship, it left her little choice but to join the Corregidor Judicial Command. Once there, she discovered her other innate talent and passion: coding. For Jazz, coding was like writing and interpreting music. Very quickly, her superiors were impressed by her abilities, and she was soon deployed in Paradiso in Spec Op teams with great success. So, on with the painting. I began with the base coating for the jumpsuit, so using Citadel's Corn Red I could get a quick and opaque coverage. Corn Red is a super base color when painting red. It looks good and it's easy to apply. Next, I base coated the backpack brown and moved on to working on the skin tones. I initially wanted to experiment with the colors for the skin and played around with rose colored paint. I tried basing Jazz's skin quite light, adding some rose for highlights and a darker mix for the shadows, but it just didn't come out how I had it in my mind, and I decided to correct it. But not until I had painted the eyes. The first step was to fill the socket with black. This is then filled with an off-white. The black should still be visible at the edges, but when you see my final work, it will be obvious I did not succeed at this. Finally, her blue irises were placed and the skin around the eyes just needed some touching up. I repainted the skin with a more familiar approach that I have that uses a darker red base and gets lighter. I pushed the skin tone as light as I could and I was much happier with this result. With the skin painted, I returned to the jumpsuit and highlighted up to a vibrant red, mixed a little white and went up to a pale red and eventually a rose. Jazz's hair is black, but rather than add the natural shine, I highlighted the front of the hair in electric blue as if she had highlights. Jazz's shirt under the jumpsuit and her gloves were to be white, so I base coated them white with the intention of making them a cool white later. I had a go at some freehand on her jumpsuit, adding the Nomad logo and writing Nomad under it. It was difficult to pull off, but it came out better than I expected, if a little bit squiffy. I continued with more base coating, this time focusing on the black areas including the boots, backpack straps, belt, guns, and hacking equipment. As I continued working on the model, it was bugging me that the rose highlights on the jumpsuit seemed to be too large and not very well blended into the red. I took some time to reduce the intensity of the rose highlights by glazing some red over the more intense areas. The black clothing was then highlighted with a dark blue grey up to light grey. It's important to try and keep these areas of highlighting small, otherwise the impression of black is lost because not enough of the black was kept. It was now time to return to the white clothing. I coated them in a light blue grey and highlighted them up to white, giving them a cool, clean look to the cloth. The backpack was given a once over with a black wash, and once dried I gave it a light brown highlight. I just had some final highlighting to do on some of Jazz's equipment, such as the gun, and she was complete. And here is Jazz. Her eyes didn't come out as intensely as I wanted and needed more contrast. I have some sloppy strokes over the body and many of the colours haven't been blended well. However, the colour scheme and general contrast is good, and she looks great on a tabletop when you don't get too close to her. Thanks for watching, and if you are subscribed already, you are amazing, and believe you me, if you are not and hit that subscribe button, you too could be just as amazing.